This video is going to be a very quick kind of introduction to the SV550 scope and 80mm ED Triplet. You're going to see me unbox it, put it together, see how I connect everything, and also actually go out and do some shooting with it. I'm going to unbox another scope. Oh, I know, I've guessed so bad right now. But don't worry, I didn't buy this one. It's another scope from Svbony. These guys must like me. They've actually been begging me to review this scope for quite a while. And yeah, this has been repackaged quite a few times. This is their triplet, okay? And I told them, they begged me to review this in the summertime, and I said no, because there aren't really any one-shot color camera type targets in the summer that I really like. In the wintertime there are a few though, like Orion, the Horsehead. There's a couple out there, and I'm going to try and shoot a few in the winter here, because it is, you know, really coming into winter. This is nice. They give us a good instruction book for it. The other scopes didn't really have an instruction book, but this is also their high-end scope. It's a triplet, so it will have near perfect chromatic aberration correction. So the packaging looks good, but I don't think the last guy that reviewed it packed pretty good. But everything's there. Everything's okay. Okay. He's little. I mean, I shouldn't be surprised by this. It's an 80mm scope. It does look nice. Okay. And I hope they sent me the focal reducer. I'm sorry, it's not a focal reducer, it's a field flattener. They did. They did. Boy, this guy's a beast. It's much bigger than the focal reducer for the 503, the 102mm objective that I have. The way I'm going to mount this one and use it, and I'm probably going to put this one-shot color camera on this guy, but of course I'm also going to try this thing with my DSLRs too. I'm going to mount them like this, next to the 102, and then I'm going to need another counterweight. I actually don't have enough ports to run everybody from my ASI Air Plus. But what I do have coming off of one of these is a splitter. And so I'll have a dew heater around here and here. And these two dew heaters will actually be running off the same port, which is fine. I mean, I have plenty of juice coming out of one port. As a matter of fact, I usually run dew heaters at like 15%. Let's see. This guy, it's 2 a.m. and I'm putting this together because the moon just went down and I'm awake. Now the focuser on the 503, the 102mm version, which I have back here, out of the box, this guy was perfectly tuned, but it was also a brand new scope. Now the one that I've got here, this is not brand new. Like, this has been through several other people's hands already, because this is the one that they send to people for reviews. And I don't know, there's some sort of clicking going on. I gotta take it apart or maybe read the manual. This is the first scope that I've ever read the manual for. And of course I had to do that to look at things like how to unlock it first. And I also need to check out this focal reducer, or excuse me, field flattener. Because it is just a field flattener, it doesn't reduce the image at all. And it's a big piece of optics. It definitely will support APS-C and maybe even 35mm. I don't know, I don't have anything big enough to test that. But this right here is the 2-inch eyepiece optic that you gotta unscrew. And one nice little touch that I noticed is that when you thread this thing in, the text actually lines up at the top of the focuser. I don't know if that's an accident or if that is actually done on purpose. Now, the back half of it does in fact thread out, and there's nothing in it. All right, this is just to kind of provide back focus And then this also comes into 2 pieces, and this is where I would thread in a 2-inch maybe filter, and then on this side, of course, is our threading to attach the camera. Now it does come with a finder shoe bracket, at least this one did. I know the lower end models, they don't, although I think you can buy them now with one attached, which I know people took a lot of issues with. I mean, I don't care really, because I like to mount mine up here anyways. This focuser right here, it'll easily handle a camera and even a filter wheel. 7 filters, no problem. It's plenty beefy enough to do that. Now this guy is a lot bigger. It's almost twice the depth, at least. Okay, so there's a cage in here that the bearings sit on, and then there's 2 tension screws. The tension screws set almost twice as far apart as they do in this focuser right here. So this guy will handle a much bigger load. Now, what would be bigger than what you could handle on this? That's when you start getting one of the larger cameras, one of the APS-C size cameras, which I did check the manual. The manual says that it will support one easily. But like, let's say if you got a bigger APS-C size camera, this is a 4/3 camera, they're quite a bit bigger. And then let's say if you got a 7 filter wheel on here, and then on top of that maybe a field rotator. Yeah, this guy's gonna handle that plenty fine. I'm assuming 55 millimeters of back focus from here to here, which is what these rings are already set up for. But if you need more back focus, or at least more space to put more stuff in here, this is meant to come off, and of course you can swap out different rings. It's an M63 millimeter ring, or thread at least. There's 103 millimeters of spacing in here that can be utilized. So yeah, you've got plenty of room for whatever your heart's desire is to put in here. Alright, so I was just going through the box again to look at what else is in there, and they did actually send me, this is the rotator right here, which would thread in with this system. And now this thing, it's got a nice, it's a very meaty feel to it. Got a lock ring, of course, right there. There are set screws that go all the way around. Let's see here. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 set screws, which I guess could be used to like make sure that it's centered up pretty nicely. Although it looks like it's pretty good. I'll have to throw a dial indicator on here to really see if it's nice and concentric. So the 102 millimeter here that I have no issues with the way it's built. I think it's plenty beefy enough as it is. That being said, this guy is kind of a whole step up on everything. The entire assembly feels a lot sturdier, and even the rings are a good bit heavier in gauge set. They're quite a bit thicker than the ones on the 102. So yeah, this is obviously intended for more serious use. Alright, so I got everything hooked up. Now we're going to actually do some imaging. I've got some dark nebula in mind that I'm going to image with this guy. We're not going to shoot with any filters this time, so I want to see this thing exactly how it will perform. I know with the Svbony, the 102 here, I tried to shoot that one filtered. But anyways, now it's time to go out and have fun with it. Last night was really, really cold. It was so cold that I went back in twice to put more clothes on. If you're interested in knowing how to balance a dual rig like this, I actually do have a video on how to do this. It's not that difficult. I think the biggest challenge is all the cable management. Now I'm going to take the whole thing inside, and I'll probably let it do darks inside. Close all the windows, of course, because I don't have any 120-second darks, because we did 120-second exposures last night. Okay, so we got them both inside, and we're going to take darks soon. Now, to run the camera, I'm actually using Indigo's A1 suite, which I will do a video on here soon, but I need to know more about it. When I do a video, I like to know 10 times as much about what I'm talking about as what I actually talk about. And let's see here. Camera temperature, we're going to change these to darks. And then I think we'll take 100 of these. 120-second darks aren't very long. Yeah, the Indigo system also has an operating system that can be run on a Raspberry Pi, and I think it's actually free, the Raspberry Pi version. And so that's what I'd like to actually eventually get running the system completely. But right now I do the guiding through the ASI Air. Camera is basically powered by the ASI Air. Just the USB is run to the laptop, and that's what runs that. It's pretty simple actually. So we'll get these images in, stack them, and actually I want to look at one now. Okay, it looks pretty good. We'll get a nice image out of this for sure. So one of the other things that I noticed when looking through Svbony's website and also the manual and everything was that this rotator here can actually be placed in between the field flattener or focal reducer if you got one in here and the actual scope, which is sweet. I like that. And if this guy, I haven't fully tested this thing out yet, but if he is perfectly collimated like the other Svbony scope that I have purchased, well then that means that I will be able to basically do rotation without changing my flats. And that is of course because dust specks that show up in your images, they don't come from the front of your lens element, they come from your field flattener or your focal reducer. Out here, they're so blurry, it doesn't really matter. As long as your objective lens is casting the image circle directly centered on your field flattener or focal reducer, then you can basically rotate the camera and you don't need to retake flats. So also, this rotator, it can be placed in between the focuser and the field flattener. It can be replaced, it can actually be put here after the field flattener if you want, or all the way at the back. So in other words, you could put the filter in front of the rotator. Yeah, there's quite a few different options that you have here. Now let's kind of try to sum this thing up, and we're going to look at a picture here that I've taken. This is just, I've only done one image of this thing, but I've only had it for a few days. And I always pick this particular target. This is the Flame and Horsehead Nebula. Now the Flame and Horsehead Nebula is a tough target. We've got two fairly faintish kind of targets. Well, actually they're kind of bright, but relative to the stars that are in this image, they're faint. And these stars are a pain in the butt usually. As a matter of fact, All Attack, which has a halo around it, that is a great star to test, because if you want to make sure that your equipment is good and solid, try to shoot this target. Now, as you can see, there is a halo, and what that halo is it's actually a reflection off of the back end of the glass and the field flattener that I have here. Now, I would bet that me using a small 4/3 sensor with this thing, and this thing kind of being designed for possibly 35mm, I haven't tested it yet, you know, that's a lot of glass that it has to reflect off of. I could probably put some sort of baffle in here and we would probably take care of most of this. But another thing is though, and this is actually my biggest suspicion as to why there is a halo here, and that is because I shot this with absolutely no filtration whatsoever. I did not even use a UV IR cut filter, all right? So now let's talk a little bit though about this image, because this is a great target to look at. Both of these targets, the Flame and the Horsehead, are hydrogen. Okay, that's what they're made out of. You'll notice though that they're two different colors, and this is only going to show up if you shoot completely unfiltered. Some guys will be able to bring it out through narrowband, but usually they're modifying it in some way that's not natural. But anyways, the Horsehead itself is actually, it's a dark piece of cloud that, you know, if you look at this wave of hydrogen that you see, it's actually being kind of blown, if you will, by solar winds that are in the universe. And there's a star up there that's peltering this whole area with radiation, and it's causing this gas to glow with a dark redness to it. And the Horsehead itself is basically a young birthing star that is sticking up, that is holding on to dust, and we are actually kind of looking at the back side of it in perspective of the star that is throwing all this radiation on the rest of the hydrogen gas that we see in this image. And then of course the flame part of this image is also a really cool section of sky, because scientists believe that there may be as many as 800 to over 1,000 stars
hidden within the flame nebula, and we can't see them. The dust there is just too thick, okay? The hydrogen that's around it, and it's glowing differently than the rest of it, and that is because that is actually the light from the stars that are hidden within this thing kind of seeping through it, if you will, and it's that palette tells us actually that probably most of those stars are yellowish stars that are inside of it. So pretty cool target, you know, a lot of variety here in one very small dense section of the sky. So yeah, look forward to seeing some more like videos about this thing soon. I'm going to do a little bit more testing with it. I'm probably going to try and do some narrowband with it because the moon's coming up here now. But yeah, I've had fun with it so far, and it certainly is a nice hefty little tiny scope, and is certainly going to keep you going for a very long time. Chromatic aberrations seem to be perfect in it so far, and tonight it looks like it's going to be a perfect night, so I guess I better go set up.